Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and joined by me is my brother. How's it going, dude?
It's good. It's good. Recently I've been watching the quarterback series on Netflix. You and I were talking about it the other day. It's pretty good. I don't know. It's like if you haven't seen it, it's with three current NFL quarterbacks: Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota. It just kind of follows what they were doing this past season, this NFL season, kind of giving like a little perspective to the fans, a little insight on the game. It's cool. Have you been watching it or not?
I've checked it out. I've watched the first 5 episodes, I think, and I feel bad saying this, but to me, it almost makes me think like the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not at the same time, not bad and ugly, because like Marcus Mariota's game's not ugly. I didn't realize he played so much. Watching that series so far, I'm like, he really played that many games before he got pulled. I thought Desmond Ritter went in a little bit earlier in his rookie season, but he didn't. So that was an insight that I forgot about when I was watching that show. But Kirk Cousins is so boring, like you were saying. He makes it fun, and that alone's good. And then you see Mahomes and these workouts and these in-season workouts he's doing too. You're just like, smokes. This is why this guy is the greatest. And it's crazy to me that he literally was talking the whole year about Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, and he goes out, wins a Super Bowl, and then I saw a thing on Twitter today. ESPN tweeted it, and he like an Airbnb. He purchased it 3 months before because he knew he was going to win the Super Bowl in Arizona or something like that. I was like, dude,
That's wild.
the confidence level he has, like this is the next Tom Brady. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
absolutely the next Tom Brady. If he wins 2 more Super Bowls, I know Tom has 2 more than that. Same time, I don't know, man. Like then it becomes a conversation, right? It's like the LeBron and conversation. It becomes a conversation. There's nobody with hockey. Sorry, it's only Gretzky. but yeah. Anyway, getting off on a tangent right off the rip. This is the RDH Sports Podcast. Like I said, today we're gonna hit running backs. We have to talk about the current running back situation in the NFL right now. This is insane. I never thought we would see it. And I'm gonna actually bring you to an example too. I think you're really gonna like it, Tanner. The fans. We're gonna hit a little bit of NFL free agency because we had a signing. And there's still some guys that are out there right now that we both can't believe are still sitting there. And then we're both gonna talk about the AFC divisions and team in the AFC division happens to be the worst. Predict what they can do better, and maybe they can come out on top this next year. So, Tanner, you ready to get into this ball talk?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm always ready for football talk. What do you mean?
He's got the jersey on if you're watching on YouTube. But I mean, I say let's kick it off real quick with the halfback situation. Like
Hmm.
let's just kick it off real fast with that. Off the rip, I think next season we have Saquon Barkley contract up, Tony Pollard contract up, Dalvin Cook contract, couple more guys too that are big names will come to me in a second, but huge guys, top 5 running backs in the NFL, and their contracts are literally up next year, and not a single team has paid him. And the big question mark out of everybody is Saquon Barkley with the franchise tag.
Hmm.
Didn't sign the franchise tag. He also is they're way far off in terms of contract extension. So what is going on with this running back situation in the NFL right now? It feels like they are devaluing this position.
It really does. I mean, I pulled up a list of like every franchise tag player, and there's three running backs on here, and it's Tony Pollard, it's Josh Jacobs, and it's Saquon Barkley, who are arguably, you know, top running backs in the NFL. Josh Jacobs just had the rushing title this past season. Saquon Barkley needs no introduction, and Tony Pollard has, you know, made a running back position of his own there in Dallas, right? So they're all very big players, and it, I think it's just the teams, just really don't want to sign him. It's just like they're asking for too much money, or they think that they can find a replacement later on down the line, and like the draft or something like that. So I don't really know why, especially with like Josh Jacobs and Saquon. Like with the Giants, it's like Saquon's your whole team. Why would you not sign him? Same with Josh Jacobs this past season. Like he was the only reason they were at least starting to be good. They started giving the ball. We've talked about this before. They started, actually winning games. Because it's a run game. It does a lot of things for the offense, right?
I mean, even to hit on that point too with Dalvin Cook. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy too. He's still unsigned, and you're telling me Dalvin Cook is doesn't still have that second gear. You and I have talked about that. There's no way. And yeah, like you said, Saquon. Thank you for bringing up Josh Jacobs. That was running back that I forgot, but he just led the league in rushing.
Hmm.
And Saquon Barkley, when healthy, is a top 5 running back in the NFL. Austin Eckler, when healthy, which he's healthy more than most, that is the arguably best pass catching back behind Christian McCaffrey
Hmm.
right now. Bijan's probably going to make a whole new name for that position. Just wait, but we can't name him in there yet. You know what I mean? Because he's still playing on his rookie deal. But it's one of those things where what do you do as a running back, right? If you my friend that I was talking to today, Felipe, brought up a really good point to me. He's like, "What happens if you're not a running back that gets drafted high? Do you get paid?" I don't know. You know what I mean? Running backs that get drafted high. I'm not saying they break the bank. You know what I mean? Sam
Yeah.
Bradford kind of messed that one up for everybody. When he signed over $100 million over I think it was over $130 million contract for his rookie year in the NFL and didn't really have pan out the best career there. So now they're tied into only a couple $1 million a year, and I know I'm saying only, and that's not including endorsements. That's not including social media, what they make off that alone, everything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's hard, because that type of wealth is pretty crazy. But at the same time, when you watch a show, like quarterback, you see what they put their body through every day, and the fact that these guys, aside from probably the offensive linemen, are getting the most wear and tear on their bodies, and they're not even getting paid now, is not fun. You know what I mean? And when you
No.
think about it, I was thinking about it today, dude. Watching an average NFL game, right? We'll bring up Dallas. Okay, this year they only have one running back. It's not that 1-2 punch like Zeke and Tony Pollard. Yes, they have Ronald Jones, but that's not the 1-2 punch that it used to be. Ezekiel Elliott, other guy's still out there, by the way. Dak probably throws the ball what 40 times a game. This isn't if it's a defensive 3-and-out situation all the time. Probably 30 times, runs the ball probably around 20 times running back wise. That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
I mean, that the running back has the ball in his hands a lot. And now Tony Pollard, guess what? And all these running backs now, it's like you can't just be a running back. It sucks. You know what I mean? Like, not only are you seeing this position being devalued, but I hate when you see guys not get paid. Really, the running backs.
Yeah, it really sucks. I saw an interesting graphic. I was scrolling through social media the other day, and on average, NFL kickers, like the total amount of kickers in the NFL on average, get paid more than the total amount of running backs in the NFL. So on average, you got to consider that there's also a lot of running backs that aren't getting paid a lot, and they kind of drop those statistics down. So it's kind of wild. You really are seeing like you were saying, this devalue of the running back position. And I think it's for the exact reason that you said. I think it's just they have the most wear and tear on their body. They have the shortest lifespan in the NFL of like any kind of player. And they're not worth the most to like NFL owners, NFL coaches, stuff like that. They might have huge contributions on the field like Saquon and Josh Jacobs, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pay your quarterback $40 million. You got to pay a wide receiver like $20 million at least per year. Like that's running back is probably the lower side of everything when you think about it.
And I mean, not to mention if you have a good tight end, you got to pay your offensive
Mm-hmm.
lineman too. I mean, I get it, you know what I mean? But the fact that the position's being devalued, and what I brought up in the intro a little bit ago is this reminds me of is what I grew up watching hockey enforcer. And the enforcer position when I was growing up watching hockey in the early 2000s, yes, there was still fights in the early 2000s, but the game has completely changed from what it is today. And there was literally guys that got every single team had one in the 90s, the 80s, the 90s, and up until that point in the 2000s. You know what I mean? And really now,
Mm-hmm.
a couple enforcers on the team. And for those of you who don't watch hockey, are essentially you have a really good player on your team. Usually, every team has a star or a very very good player, and that player is going to get picked on. That player is going to get messed with, and that enforcer makes sure that doesn't happen. Wayne Gretzky, every single great had one on their team. Joe Sakic, everybody had one on their team. That there was nothing you could do if you were that really good player, a really great player, and that position right now is being completely devalued, and you only have a couple in the NHL right now. Ryan Reeves, who just got signed, I want to say by the Maple Leafs, and then you have Tom Wilson. You have a couple other guys coming up, but that position back in the day, man, you fighter first and a hockey player second.
Yeah.
Well, it's a literally you have to be a hockey player first, and nobody really fights. Like if you told me that fighting was going to be out of the league in like 25 years, I wouldn't be that surprised. It's literally two guys that are just sitting there fist fighting, but there's something special about it, especially if you've played the game. The cool thing about it is the refs just sit there and go, okay, we're going to let this go. But when somebody has the advantage, we're going to step in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's times like line brawls. Line brawls, I've been a part of those. Those aren't very fun because you don't know where you're going to get hit from. But like, it's just a nature of the game that when you play it, you understand it. And if as a casual fan, I understand if you go watch the game and you see some dude just beating the crap out of somebody. But at the same time, like, or you're watching the game. I don't know. For me, I don't understand why that position was ever taken out of hockey. Me, it's like this running back position. It's like take it out of football.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going that extreme, but at the same time, not going to be a lot of kids wanting to go be the next Saquon Barkley. I can tell you that, and I can tell you right now that the only running backs are going to get drafted are like A. Bijan Robinson or A. Jamar Gibbs, and then second round, you probably don't have a running back that gets drafted. You know what I mean? And then in the third rounds, then they start to get drafted. But no, I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, the thing is like you've seen like the NFL becoming less physical over the past however many years. You know, it's happened. Like we saw it with like the quarterback position. You can't really hit him anywhere on the body except for like right in the chest, basically when you're trying to sack him. Obviously I get that you're trying to protect your quarterback, but it does take away a bit of the physicality from the game, right? And with the running back comparison as well, you know, they have like these two running back sets, right? They want these running backs to not have so much wear and tear. They want them to be worth more, but in turn, that makes them not worth more, right? You have multiple running backs that would make their worth go down because you have two; they're more expendable. An interesting thing I saw, and I didn't know this was a thing, but running back has the second lowest franchise tag value in the NFL. I just looked it up because not every franchise tag is worth the same because it's different it's a different payout per position. Like I'm looking at it right now, Lamar Jackson, like he signed that a franchise tag before he signed his big deal, right? And that was worth 32.42 million, right? A running back's only worth 10.9 million if you were to sign that deal. A tight end is worth more, 11.35 million, like over 1 year. I mean, a defensive tackle is worth even more, 18.94. The only position that isn't worth more is a special teams player. So they're the second.
Crazy.
I know they're the second lowest franchise tag, I guess, pay for per year, which is nuts.
That's crazy.
It everything is just pointing towards the running back's downfall, which kind of sucks. I don't really know what would change that. I mean, I think that the game itself would probably have to change. A style of the game, more running back focused. Drives and plays and stuff like that. Like if someone goes out there and proves that you can run the ball every single play and win a Super Bowl, then yeah, the numbers are probably going to start going up again, and the running back position is going to be more valuable. But the way the league's going right now, I don't see that happening. I just see it continue to go down.
And last point I'll make on this, just say to prove this point, I mean, I don't know how many NFL GMs or execs are listening to RDH Sports, but you have to pay these guys. You know what I mean? You have to pay these guys. I understand you don't want to get locked into a deal because of the wear and tear on their body, but at the same time, at least like 3 years, you have to get that payday. There's no way the payday, but you know how much the offensive play is elevated when you have not only a good running back, I'm not talking average, I'm talking a good running back, an average quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine Daniel Jones without Saquon Barkley. Marcus Mariota last year without Cordell Patterson. You know what I mean? Like Cordell wasn't great. You know what I mean? And you saw it wasn't necessarily. I would put him in good. I wouldn't put him in the great category. Saquon's great. Take away everything that happened in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara. You know what I mean? Take it away. It just I don't know. I think still going to have NFL execs and GMs that value this position and understand the importance of this position.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to see, yes, less teams have it, and let's hope that your team is not one of those teams that devalues the running back position. I don't think the Cowboys ever will. We've gotten burned by I can't tell you any more contracts. Marion Barber not good, Zeke not good. You know what I mean? We've got burned pretty much every time we've signed a running back thing. I get I was complaining, every now and then, but in the Barbarian, that was Ezekiel Elliott. I know watching those games, we would not have won a lot of those games if we did not have those players. Marion Barber, we didn't win a ton, you know what I mean? But but Zeke, he won that game in Pittsburgh. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Going into the playoffs. And in that there's as you see in the Netflix series, say Marcus Mariota plays define a season. That was one that defined the season for the Cowboys, even though it was late. And so it's one of those. But we've talked enough about this, this running back situation. Obviously, Tanner and I are pro running back. We need to get paid here. You know what I mean? Let's
Put me
get
in.
paid. Let's get these boys the bag. Free agency.
Yeah.
What do you got, Tanner?
So I have like this list of just like pretty big free agents, free agent signings. I think the biggest one we should start with is DeAndre Hopkins. He got signed by the Titans. We I didn't see that coming, to be honest. He said that he wanted to go to like a Super Bowl caliber team, and I didn't really think the Titans were a Super Bowl caliber team. They're not far away, don't get me wrong, but Tannehill and aging Derrick Henry, it's an interesting situation to go to. What do you think about this? What do you think he's going to do next year?
I don't. I. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me because I have Tennessee finishing last in the division. And in our next segment when we're going to talk about the AFC teams and what they need to do to get better, Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Mhm.
Understand that they got Malik Willis. I understand that they got Tannehill. You know what I mean? I understand that they also drafted. I can't remember his name. I always forget his name because I literally was not a fan of him coming out of. But he got drafted in the second round. But think of his name. He doesn't have anybody throwing the ball. Like he doesn't have anybody throwing him the ball. But at the same time, I argue that he's never really had a great quarterback throwing him the ball.
I mean,
I
Deshaun.
mean, like yeah, Deshaun at the time was pretty solid. Don't get me wrong, Deshaun was top, but I mean, he didn't have Deshaun for that long. I
No.
mean, like he had him for a little bit, but not that long. I think you need a decent quarterback to do it, but at the same time, Rick Henry's not going to be getting the rock. DeAndre Hopkins gets it. He has to, right? Because Traylon Burks isn't going to command that. You know what I mean? Nobody else on the offense can really command the ball like DeAndre Hopkins. So yes, he goes to a worse situation. I think stats wise and fantasy wise, I think he went to a pretty decent situation because he's going to take most of that offense wise. There's no way anybody gets close to him in number of receptions if he stays healthy this whole season.
Yeah. I mean, like looking at his career, he's always that guy who he's like, give me the ball, give me these receptions. I need the ball in my hands. And granted, he can make stuff happen. That's why, he's been doing this for a long time. That's why he does make stuff happen. I don't know how to feel about it because they just got rid of AJ Brown, and they probably could have signed him to a long-term deal, and now they just go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. Like it's almost like they're admitting their mistake with like getting rid of AJ Brown. You know what I mean? And I don't. I mean, in their current form, AJ Brown's probably the better receiver. So I don't know. It's a really interesting situation because they just. I don't know how that offense is going to work. Are they just going to do the same thing they did with AJ Brown? Like just kind of like ignore him. That's not DeAndre Hopkins not going to want that. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think it can work, but they need to play their cards right. They need to get him the ball, and they need to, I don't know, just get him the ball in space. Do like short routes, stuff like that. Don't try to go over the top, go crazy. DeAndre Hopkins, he's older. He's not gonna. I mean, he could still probably burn a defense, but he's not gonna do that every single play. I don't think. You have Derrick Henry down there. You have Tannehill, who's a capable quarterback. I don't know. I think it can work. I just don't know if the Titans can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed all of it. You know what I mean? I think you nailed pretty much all of it. Derrick Henry in the red zone. have fun. You know where the ball's going, but it's going to be a touchdown anyway. Hopkins, I think, is going to get at least 10 to 12 targets a game
Mm-hmm.
minimum. You know what I
He
mean?
he better,
Minimum.
you know.
Yeah. With that, I mean, the contract's not too crazy. The thing with the AJ Brown in Tennessee is that fans obviously didn't want him to go, but as a fan that's not a Tennessee fan and just a very avid football fan, more than most, uh, he wasn't really working there. You know what I mean? His play went to another level when he went to Philly. You, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's true.
And to me, it's like I think that was best for both sides. I think that was a situation where that was best for both sides, and he's not necessarily that veteran yet. You know what I mean? He just got his, that's his bag, his first bag. You know what I mean in terms of contracts. DeAndre Hopkins has already had a couple contracts. He's on the back half of his career. That's why they only signed him to a 2-year deal. But when you have somebody like DeAndre Hopkins that comes in, not only is that such a valuable asset in the locker room, it is a valuable asset because that veteran leadership, watching him practice, picking up traits of his when you're his teammates, and they have a lot of young. And Tennessee is also a team runs through the wall for their coach. So that team is always going to give every single team a very hard game, and the defense has been solid. The defense is
Mm-hmm.
solid. That's a really good defense. Every year it's a really good defense. It's top 10 defense every single year. Their offense just goes into literal non-existent states. So you have to have a guy not only rejuvenates that offense, but makes that offense better immediately, and he does. So we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just need to see it. You know, that's the biggest thing for me. I just need to see them involve him like they didn't do with AJ Brown. But we can move on. The other big notable free agent we talked about him already is like Dalvin Cook. He hasn't been signed yet. You know, DeAndre Hopkins is like the big news recently, but I think Dalvin Cook is number two easily. He needs a team. It's just that simple. I mean, he's a running back, like we've been talking about. You can put him in, and it won't take him long to acclimate to a system. You just got to put him in there, and you got to let him work, and he will work. He's good. He's only like 28. He's young. I don't understand why nobody has taken a chance on him yet.
I don't understand why Dalvin Cook is still out there, and I'm pretty sure that tentatively, I don't know if he was franchise tagged or something, but I don't know if he's. I think he's still a or I know he's still a free agent, but
He is.
I don't know. It's weird because go ahead.
He's. I mean, he's not on an NFL team because he got. I think he got cut. I think he did. I
Oh
think
yeah,
because I think he got cut. I don't think he's on
that's
the
right.
Vikings
So
at all.
Yeah, Dalvin. Yeah, Dalvin still hasn't been picked up. No, you're 100% right. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of the Derrick Henry situation. Yes, Dalvin Cook did. I do. Yes, he got cut. I don't know. To me, I don't know. I think if Dallas wouldn't have signed Tony Pollard to a $10 million franchise tag, they probably would have gone and got him. Like
Dude, go get him
but I
anyways.
know,
Why not? Like,
yeah, well, Dalvin wants the bag.
I know.
That's exactly why he's still out there. You know what I mean? That's exactly why. And or we hit on it earlier. You know what I mean with the running back situation. So hopefully he gets paid very soon, and I'd be very surprised if the season started without him somewhere. And another notable guy who I just remembered from earlier about the running backs is Jonathan Taylor. His contract's also up next year. So
Yeah, he's gonna get paid, or he better get paid, unless he gets injured. Then it's a question.
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple other free agents that I think are pretty notable. Um, let's look. Let's look. Marcus Peters is a free agent, which is kind of crazy. But he has some age on him. You know, I'm looking at it. He's 30, and I think he's still a notable free agent. He's still a good veteran, and he can make an impact on a team in his career. What do you think?
If you're playing man coverage, yeah. You know what I mean? If you're playing a lot of man coverage, then I would absolutely bring him in. Even if you're playing zone, I would stick him as your number 3. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why he hasn't been signed yet. I don't think Marcus Peters would necessarily be going for the bag. The Ravens not re-signing him or wherever he was last year because he's bounced around a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a locker room issue or something along those lines. Because when you see a guy that just continues to go to different teams, wonder if it's a locker room issue. So
Maybe.
I'm leaning on the side of maybe it's a locker room issue, and that's why he hasn't been signed yet. And if it's a locker room issue, then you have a handful of teams in the NFL that will take a chance on a guy. Dallas being one of those teams. I think also these guys become extremely valuable after training camp. Right now, you got to remember the tone is like, hey, training camp's coming up in a week. You got training camp starting next week for the Cowboys and Oxnard. Rams down the road too, but you have training camp starting, and right now you're still seeing what these draft picks are. You're in training camp.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true.
You're not even in preseason yet. So right now the mood and the tone in the facility is there's a lot of guys here. There's like 70 guys here right now. And 80 guys, 90 guys here right now. And it just goes from here to here to here to here. And then you have your roster, right? So I think right now there's just so many people around, and you have random success stories out of training camp. Specifically, example is Anthony Brown was a sixth round corner. He played very, very well in training camp, and then he had a pretty solid preseason. So right now, NFL teams are kind of waiting to see what their rookies do, or their second year players do. You know what I mean? And then after you make those cuts, and after you do get a couple, sorry, it's going to happen, injuries in training camp and preseason, and before the season starts, then I think you'll see some of those guys get signed, especially like a Marcus Peters that can walk in off the street and be a corner number 3 easily.
Easy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with that. I think probably the only other two like notable free agents besides like Teddy Bridgewater, but I think they're Yannick Ngakwe and Jadeveon Clowney. Those are probably the only other two ones that I would say are bigger names out there. But kind of like the same story with both of them. They just kind of have had disappointing careers. They've had a hot start to begin with, but not much since, especially with Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he was probably the best recruit you've seen in a long time. And it just hasn't done a lot, especially when he was in Cleveland. I mean, you basically said he wasn't even there. He didn't play half the time, and when he did play, it wasn't a big impact.
You have a guy like Miles Garrett on the other. Speaking of Jadeveon Clowney first,
Mm-hmm.
a guy like Miles Garrett on the other side that commands double teams, if not triple teams, and you're still not getting home to the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. So the thing with Jadeveon Clowney is he had a hit that went viral against Michigan, South Carolina, and Michigan, and he blew up the center, blew up the running back in the backfield, and it went viral. You saw the power. You saw the 40 time when he ran in, I think, the 4.5s back in the day. And a man that runs that fast, it's very, very hard to not to pass up on a prospect like that. It's very hard to pass up on a guy like that because he checks every single box coming out of college. You have guys that don't necessarily translate the best. And Jadeveon Clowney was one of those guys. His ceiling was South Carolina. That was his ceiling. He was there
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the NFL, you haven't seen him go up. You've just seen him the whole time. I don't think he's gone down. I really don't, because in college, I watched the tape. I watched way more. I watched way more college games than a lot of people do. So I watched a lot of Jadeveon Clowney, and I mean, like I said, he's a great prospect, but I think sometimes you get prospects numbers, and not only the draft pick, right? So when you're that high of a draft pick, of course, and then speaking to Yannick Ngakoue, he was at that Jacksonville defense when they were horrible. You know what I mean? Pre Trevor Lawrence, and they had Blake Bortles, and they just drafted defensive tackles or defensive linemen in the first and second round every single year for like 3 years in a row, and he was one of them. He had a pretty solid start to his career, and then he just and he's on the younger side, so I think he could come in and be a rotational defensive end. Same with Jadeveon Clowney, but they do different things. I think Yannick Ngakoue is more of a guy that's going to get to the quarterback. If he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want a big payday, I don't think that's a bad signing for any NFL team. If Jadeveon Clowney wants a payday, I don't think so. I don't think what he's done in the NFL warrants a payday, but I do think it warrants him being on an NFL team because he is more of a power run stopper, has the ability to get to the quarterback whenever everything's working. You know what I mean? Which
Yeah, but
not that often.
the situation has to be perfect though. I mean, I agree.
That's why they're still free agents. You know what I mean? That's exactly why they're still free agents. And I think Unique Ngakoue will for sure get picked up probably preseason when somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, but see these high draft picks out the league. I hope he's not out the league because he's got another kick at the can as you say. But yeah, I mean, solid free agents left. If your team needs some defensive end help, your team needs really. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater. That's not a bad backup quarterback, even though we just mentioned him. That's a solid backup quarterback. So running back there, you know what I mean. One of the best in the league when healthy too. So there's a lot of guys out there that are still available and very good and can make your team better. So
Yeah, I mean, you see teams probably more, like the Cowboys and like Eagles and stuff like that, but they start building through the draft, and that's just kind of the thing that people do nowadays. I
that's
think
how
it's
you build dynasties.
I really do. I think it's how you build dynasties. You see the Rams sometimes they buy their Super Bowls and it works, but I mean, you need that young talent there. You need it because it's cheap, and that you're not going to get that other places. Like you see these free agency markets, and it's a lot of people who are kind of at the back half of their careers. They have done some really good things in their careers, and they are still out there for a reason, right? They're inconsistent. That's like the biggest thing. With a rookie, you could hit gold like we were talking about in the 6th round if you just randomly hit someone. Like I don't know. I think the draft
Don't
is the way to
randomly hit
go.
people.
Well, don't. Well, okay, randomly. let's
I
say
know. I'm just messing with you.
let's say randomly get a good prospect. How about that?
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Remember,
But
Tanner, it's 2023.
I mean, you can hit people. It's fine.
don't do that. Oh man. Now that's what happens when you're on a podcast with your brother. By the way, if we were in the same room, I would have got you with one of those, and then you'd have got me with one back. But I think I think we hit NFL free agency. I think there's still guys like we said. Now jumping to the last segment of the show, AFC division. Next show is going to be NFC division. A couple pods ago, we released who we thought was going to be last in division, who we thought was going to be first in division. We went through every AFC team, every NFC team, told you exactly what we thought was going to happen in those divisions. So if you haven't checked that one out, go check that one out on wherever you're listening to it right now. AFC teams,
Yep.
worst AFC teams. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
start with the AFC North. I think the worst team in that division is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm assuming you're on the same train. What on earth do the Pittsburgh Steelers have to do to get out of that potential last spot? We already know, be like 8-9. You know what I mean? Mike Tomlin, it's not going to be bad. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe Cleveland jumps into that spot, but I don't think so because Cleveland has Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to elevate to another level, and then you have Pittsburgh, who is a really really young team, and they may need a little bit longer. But I don't know. What do you think Pittsburgh needs to do this season to get out of that last spot that we think they're in?
I mean, I don't think the last spot is a lock for Pittsburgh at all. I mean,
I think them and Cleveland are right there.
yeah, but I don't know if you can say it's definitively won, because it's kind of like the opposite
Yeah.
situation with both teams. Like Cleveland has a stacked roster. You can't say that they don't. And if they play up to their potential, they could contend for the division title. They're probably not going to win it, but I'm saying they could contend for it. And Pittsburgh, they don't have a stellar roster, but all the time they consistently contend for like number 2 or number 3, right? So it's weird because they're a well coached team. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to be the bottom. Assuming it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, I just think they need to get Najee more involved. I think they need to get that run game more hammered through. Kenny Pickett needs to start hitting his shots. He needs to start looking like an NFL quarterback. I mean it's just dependent on the offense. I'm not worried about the defense. You got T.J. Watt back there. He's going to be fine. As long as you have him, the defense will be a-okay. And the offense just needs to get rolling. I mean I think it's just that simple. I mean it's all up to Kenny Pickett. It's all up to the offensive scheme, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have the coaching on lock. You know what I mean? You have the coaching on lock. The quarterback play. Not sure if Kenny Pickett's really the guy there.
Yeah, I don't
You're
know.
not you're not you're not too sure if Kenny Pickett's the guy there. If he takes another step, then there's no shot there last in that division. But if he plays like he did last season, I think that Cleveland's going to elevate their play. I'm sorry, Baltimore's a better team than both of them, and you being a Cleveland fan, you don't like to hear it. I don't really think it's that close. But I'm talking about last year's Cleveland Browns. I want to see what
No
Deshaun's
doubt.
going to do this year. I think Deshaun's going to surprise a lot of people.
He's looked pretty good in
But
training camp. That's all I'm saying. OTAs. He's looked pretty good. Pretty good.
yeah, yeah. But then he walked on the field last year and looked like me in eighth grade PE. Anyway, you know, I think the big thing with the Steelers is they do have to definitely have Najee keep going more. I think that the defense, they just have to not have injuries.
Yeah, of
TJ
course.
Watt
I
can't
mean,
get injured. That's pretty much it. Minka back there is going to lock up. They have some really great weapons on the defensive side of the ball too, with really fast linebackers that they've had in the past and even now. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh's pretty solid there on the defensive side, but the offensive side is what they need to kind of figure out. And also in late game situations, they need to actually go down and score a touchdown. You know what I mean? They don't need to not get a bunch of field goals like they did last season. You saw them getting way more field goals than they should have. That you need to capitalize on those red zone opportunities. And a big way to do that, you said Najee Harris, and also getting the pass game more involved, right? You have Deontay Johnson. You got really, really good players on that offensive side of the ball. George Pickens too, right? Like he's going to have a really good year. So I think you just got to get them more involved, like you said. I think Cleveland, the biggest thing for them to not be last in the division is it's just that simple. Like that was the only thing last year that arguably aside from some play on defense, random weeks where Cleveland's defense just didn't show up. Everybody besides Miles was there. You know what I mean? When you saw those 20+ point games, nothing's going right on the offensive side of the ball. So there's a reason for that. They're always backed up in their own play, giving the opposing team the ball the 50-40 yard line. You're not going to win football games like that. But
yeah.
Cleveland, I think is going to take a step up. Baltimore, I think Baltimore's going to eat, especially with Lamar actually eating. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that division. But jumping to FC South, I'm predicting Tennessee. Oh, we just talked about DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm predicting Tennessee to be last in that division. And being better for Tennessee is kind of the same exact thing we said for Pittsburgh. Quarterback to step up. You have to have a quarterback step up,
Mm-hmm.
and you now have a number one wide receiver. Who's on the back half. You don't necessarily. I mean, Derrick Henry's going to go out there and do what he does. Defense is sneaky good, so I think they just have to have better quarterback play. And needs to be Tannehill. He needs to not throw interceptions like he did last season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird this division. I don't know. Thinking about it, I don't know who's going to be last because it's not going to be Jacksonville. I'll tell you that right now.
For winning.
Yeah, they're probably winning the division, but like Tennessee should have had that division won last season. They should have won it, but they didn't. They just got complacent and they lost it towards the end. Indianapolis, though, I mean, who's starting for them at quarterback? Like, I mean, is it?
They would have to go. There's no way they're going to have Anthony Richardson. Absolutely no way they're going to have Anthony Richardson start. So they're going to have veteran
Mm-hmm.
and quarterback start there. So that's definitely an option too. That's the thing. Like Indianapolis and Tennessee are right there. You know what I mean?
This is the biggest division that I just don't know what's going to happen. The Texans,
And
it's a lot
and
of
Houston,
young
yeah,
talent. Who knows how CJ Stroud is going to perform next year? Like I don't know. He could light up the league as far as we know, but at the same time, he could also look like a rookie. So I don't know. I
which
think
I think is more probable.
probably, yeah. I mean, let's say it is Tennessee. Let's say it is them who are in last place. I mean, I think it's just they need to get this DeAndre Hopkins involved. I mean, I think that really is what it has to be. They got to get him the ball. He's a good player, and it's going to open up your run game. Derrick Henry doesn't need things to be open, but it's going to be more open. It's going to help them move the chains. They were in the AFC Championship not long ago, and it was because they had good production with Tannehill and passing the ball. And they also had Derrick Henry, who's a freak. So
Yeah, I mean an absolute animal. And yeah, you have Indianapolis. That's a really good point there. Indianapolis has a really good defense. Jonathan Taylor is coming off fully healthy though, so I don't know. You know what I mean? Indianapolis is another team that could be right there. Houston, it's hard to me. Yes, it's a young team, but the players that they got are just so good. And you saw what they did last year, and they just relied on Damian Pierce, and they got nothing but better.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But still, that is a literal division where there is three teams that could be competing for last place. Sure. Tennessee needing, quarterback play. If you're competing for last place, it's okay. You have young players, right? You have really young players. It's okay. You're not expected to be best in football. And guess what? Bad. That means you're going to have a bunch of more really good football players because you're going to have a bad draft pick. So not too bad of a situation to be in. The Colts, you have no idea what's going to happen next season. You have
Yeah.
no idea what's going to happen next season. If Jonathan Taylor's hitting on all cylinders, if he's MVP caliber Jonathan Taylor, then it's good luck. And
Yeah, pretty much.
Indianapolis has a really, really good defense. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Indy. Now that I'm probably thinking about it, I would have to say Indy's probably going to be back there. I'm going back on my take with Tennessee. I think Indy's going to have to be down there. Don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. And outside of Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor,
They really got no
a
one
whole lot
else.
else. There's not a whole lot else in that team. And I think Tennessee is a little bit deeper defense and coaching wise. So yeah, I'm going back on my choice. I'm saying Indianapolis. But
I mean, with Indy, it's like just pull up their depth chart. I mean, they got Gardner Minshew starting at the moment, and then Anthony Richardson and Sam Ellinger. So there's not a lot of options. But I mean, his supporting cast isn't terrible. Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, and he's got a pretty good offensive line. It's just, can Gardner Minshew be a above average quarterback? I think if he's at least solid, then I don't think they get last. I think they at least compete. They're competitive. Like you said, their defense is good. They can rely on that a lot.
I mean, it's hard to say. I think
I don't
this is
know.
a division where it's just so obvious that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take it. I think that is like the biggest lock for me in this division. I think they're so much better than these other teams. We'll see if I'm eating my words. 17 weeks at the end of the regular season, but this division is really the bottom three are up for grabs more than first place. So I'm just going to say that now.
Yes, I
Jumping
agree.
to the AFC West, I got to put the Raiders there. Sorry, I got to put the Raiders there. It's hard for me to when you look at their depth chart specifically. You see Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball, Adams on the offensive side of the ball, and then Josh Jacobs. But like I said, Jimmy G is if not the same, worse than Derek Carr. And they weren't that special. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Even with Josh Jacobs leading the league in rushing. Devonte Adams having what you put up last pod like 1,500 yards.
A lot, yeah.
They were brutal last season. They were brutal, and I don't really think they did a lot to get better. So that's why I have to put them there. Sorry, Raiders fans. It's hard for me to say I think what they have to do better is be more consistent on defense other than Max Crosby. I honestly think that's what they have to do. I think the offensive side of the ball, the stats that we just rattled off with Devontae Adams and the fact that Josh Jacobs, led the league, know what's going to happen on offense, and clearly it works. Clearly it works, but the defensive side is where they really, really struggled and where they lost a lot of games. Also, a lot of more interceptions were thrown than usual. So we'll see if can fix that. I'm not confident he can. I wouldn't touch him in fantasy, but at the same time, he does have Devontae Adams, so you're getting at least a tug a game. I mean, but the Raiders, I think they need way better consistent play on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think happens in that division?
I mean, the question is, do the Denver Broncos get better, from last season? Because if not, then it's probably the Denver Broncos at the bottom. But I just don't see a world where Russell Wilson is that bad 2 years in a row. And I have to go with the Raiders. I have to go with them at the bottom. It's like you said, I don't know if I believe in Jimmy G enough for that system to change a whole lot. It's kind of like they just replaced Derek Carr with a clone of himself, a more game managery clone of himself, which it's so weird. I mean, you think about it, Jimmy G was in the Super Bowl not that long ago, and now we're talking about him like he's almost a backup. It sucks. It sucks. But I just
And you took away the chemistry too with Devontae Adams. Like I don't understand why you took that away. You brought him there because of Derek Carr being there,
yeah
and then you get rid of Derek Carr. Like
yeah
just sign him for give him the extension for however long Devontae Adams' contract is, and then worry about it later.
yeah.
I mean, like,
I don't get
why?
it. I don't get it either. But I I mean, Derek Carr is hopefully going to play better in New Orleans than he did it in Las Vegas. I don't know, man. I don't know. The Raiders,
I think they both.
they have a good team. They have a really good team. You know, it's just like you
No,
said.
I think Derek Carr went to a worse situation personally.
Really? I mean, that's true. He did have Devontae
Not
Adams and Josh Jacobs.
just talking about who you're throwing the ball to. You have Devonte Adams. Yes, you have Chris Olave there, but I'm sorry, Chris Olave, you're no Devonte Adams. Like you could
I
just
mean,
throw the ball behind the back and give it to Devonte Adams.
yeah, true. I agree with that. Devontae Adams is probably better than the entirety of the New Orleans Saints wide receiver room, except Michael Thomas. But he might not even be on the field, so I don't know. And they might not have a
You have
running
no
back
idea.
either. Like,
Yeah, you have no idea what's going to happen with the Saints next year. You literally have no clue. But you brought up a good point with the Broncos. That's definitely a team that I see could be there for third. But with the Broncos, man, you have not only Russell Wilson, but you now have Sean Payton there,
yeah.
coach. There, he had a whole year. He now has a full off season with these guys, a full off season. You know Russ is going to be having them over. You know that Russ knows what's going on, and the whole year, if you were keeping up to social media, I mean, it was pretty apparent his teammates were not the biggest fans of him. You know what I mean? So I think Russ, of all people, being the leader that he is, not only in the community but on the field, he's going to get right. He's got a really, really good head coach now, a Hall of Fame potentially. I don't know if Sean's in the Hall of Fame. Um, Pretty solid coach. You know what I mean? Sean Payton's
Very
pretty
solid.
solid. And
Very solid.
and speaking to the quarterback position specifically, he just got done coaching Drew Brees before that. So yeah, I'd say it's a pretty decent situation to walk in there. And their wide receiving core is so good and so young. You know what I mean? The defensive side of the ball in Denver could use a little bit of work, but they have arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league, from Alabama. So Denver Broncos could also be there too if the Raiders decide to take a step up from last year. But once again, Raiders, their best players played their best, and look
Mm-hmm.
what happened. So I don't know. I can't get over that. Denver has another season like they did, then this Rush trade is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history. One of the biggest flops career wise in NFL history. But I don't see that happening.
It can't, right? Like, it just
Can't.
can't. I think everyone's on the same page in the world. Just being like, it can't happen twice. You know, like lightning struck, we get it. It happened. It can't happen again. I mean, they brought in Sean Payton to, like, fix him. Please.
Hey, we have a problem. Like, yeah, we'll give you a first. No big deal. And he's going to get him right. He coached Drew Brees, dude. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to get him right.
And
That's,
the
you don't
roster
trade
is.
a first round draft pick
That's true.
for a coach.
The
Like,
roster is so good.
can we talk about that? Like, you trade a first round draft pick for a coach to fix their quarterback. Like, they are on their last ditch effort here. It is all in right now. John Elway is like, please. You know what I mean? Like, I can't draft a quarterback. I drafted Paxton Lynch. Like, I'm getting Russ, you know what I mean? And then just cliff dive. But anyway,
I mean,
go on.
that's the thing. Like, they can't have a quarterback to save their life. You know, they're like Cleveland, who try and draft all these high quarterbacks, and they just all end up being bust. And I don't know what that says about the organization, especially recently. But like, they're talking about the Denver Broncos. You know, they go out, they pay a lot of money and a lot of draft picks, a lot of draft capital to get this guy, and they just invested more into their coach for this guy. So I completely agree. I mean, technically, like 4 first round picks when you combine like the Sean Payton trade plus the um,
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson trade, like that's stupid. I mean, that's just stupid.
At Broncos Nation.
Let's ride.
Cringiest dude on the planet, but he was a good quarterback in Seattle, man. Like, he was such a good quarterback in Seattle. Like,
All
I
those
I
Super
loved
Bowls,
I
like come
loved
on.
loved watching him. He loved watching him in Seattle, and I just can't believe that we're even talking about him. Bad season, because he really hadn't had one after he got the reins in Seattle. But last division episode, AFC East. It's hard to say
I don't
Bill
know.
Belichick team is going to be last place. But I don't know, man. I think it's pretty obvious in that division for me. Who do you think's gonna end last there?
It's not the Bills. It's not the Dolphins. It can't be the Jets, right? It just can't.
Of Aaron Rodgers. It can't. This has to be the Patriots. It has to be the Patriots. It's Jones. It has to be the Patriots. It
Yeah,
has to be the
it literally
Patriots.
has to be them.
And if it's not, something went terribly wrong. Something
Yeah.
went terribly wrong. If it's Buffalo, single better on the planet predicted that. There's no way. If it's Miami, something happened with the quarterbacks.
Yeah, Tua would have to
Something
go down.
happened. Yeah, something happens with the quarterbacks. The Patriots, it has to be the Patriots. There's no way. There's no way it's not the Patriots. And the Jets, dude, they just brought over A. Ron. Come on, he's going to make Garrett Wilson a top 10 wide receiver in this league starting next season. They already have a stellar running back, great young defense. They just re-signed Quentin Williams, their defensive tackle, defensive end when he wants to be. They locked him up. I'm so glad they did that. I loved him coming out of Alabama. Really, really glad he got his bag and he got signed. But dude, it's the Pats, and it's pretty obvious. You know Belichick's gonna make that defense at least games, if not dominant in games. You know he is, and you can also check the coaching box. He's going to win a couple games just off his coaching alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if old Mac Jones, Mr. Mac Attack, can get it done. He doesn't really have anybody to throw it to. Running back wise, the Patriots start whoever they can find, and they just go with however many running backs. So there's never really consistent running back play there. So defense is going to be good enough in that division, I think. I don't think the offense is going to be, and I think you're going to see it big time this year now that the Jets have Aaron Rodgers and he gets to pick them apart too.
Oh, it's gonna be brutal. Just start Bailey Zappi, dude. Like he started like a couple games and he was like electric. Just put him in. I think that's it could work. I mean, Mac Jones. I
Mike
don't.
White wasn't Mike White. Wasn't Mike White the quarterback? Oh no, that we're thinking about the Jet. I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
it
the
was the
Jets.
Jets, but he also played really well. What is Mike White doing? You know,
Maybe playing for Patriots next year. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, you remember when the Patriots had a Cam, when they had Cam Newton?
I do.
That
I
was
do.
wild.
I
It almost
that
worked,
was
and then it didn't.
it almost worked. It almost worked. I love Cam Newton. Oh man, he was so good. He
Yeah,
was one of my favorite one of my favorite college quarterbacks to watch. But
that's right.
they got old Mac Jones, man, and they don't really have receivers. Like
I look.
N'Keal Harry like did not pan out.
I looked it up. They got Juju in the offseason after he was on the Chiefs. And Juju I think had 1,000-yard seasons on the Chiefs. And they also have Devontae Parker, who's old, but it's still Devontae Parker.
So no number one wide receivers is what I'm still hearing.
Exactly. It's a bunch of number
Juju
twos.
yeah, Juju Smith Schuster is. I'll give him number two. I'll give him number two. But at the same time, 1,000 yards because of Patrick Mahomes. I don't know.
They do have Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry, which that experiment isn't really working out, but I don't know. Maybe it can. Gesicki's a good
They
player.
also like
Henry's a good player.
they also play like more 3 tight end sets than any teams, and they have
Yeah.
like 2 pass catching tight ends. It's like I don't really understand it because you would think they would have to block, but dude, I don't know. Watching the Patriots offense is the one of the most boring things on the planet to me.
Yeah.
I think they're very boring to watch. Otherwise, I love watching them on the defensive side of the ball, but they just need to elevate their game on the offensive side of the ball because they got it locked down on the defensive side of the ball. Like I don't think that they can go out and out and get Dalvin Cook and just stick with him, their running back.
That'd be so good.
Then maybe, you know what I mean? Then maybe. And I did think that the Patriots were going to be the team that signed DeAndre Hopkins. That was my prediction. Goes to the Tennessee Titans, but it's could have really, really used that. And I don't understand why they haven't. It's probably because Belichick's like, dude, I've won 5 of them with Tom Brady. I know how good you have to be, and we're just not there. I mean, I don't know. That's what I have to believe because Patriots go out and get a guy like Randy Moss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they're close. But like I said, that's why we're talking about him as potential last in the division because I just don't think they're close. And I don't see them making signings. But that's pretty much all I got on these AFC teams. Tanner, you got anything else on these AFC teams to close us out?
No, I just think this division is probably going to be like the best one next year. Just the AFC East, if not like the NFC West. That one.
I think 3 teams make the playoffs. I think 3 teams in that division make the
Out of this
playoffs. And they
division.
have to. Have to.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think 100% two will, and then
100%.
it's pretty much up to the third one if nothing happens. They would. It kind of comes down to, are the Jets going to be the team that we think they're going to be, and if they do, then yeah, I think they make the playoffs 100%. But I don't know.
Not have a Jets team. Like, way the Jets don't win 10 games next season. There's no way a 10-win team doesn't make it into the playoffs. Time. Playing Buffalo twice. Miami twice. You get 2 dubs with the Pats. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think they could split each of those series. I think they definitely could.
I mean, you see it. I mean, you see it whenever. I mean, I like to bring up the Chiefs all the time because I love watching Patrick Mahomes. So I watch all the games. I love watching the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's one of my favorite matchups in division matchups to watch because no matter what, Chargers are always close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a field goal or a play different, the Chargers win that game. Or you don't have Mahomes do the crazy stuff that he does whenever he plays. But those division matchups are the hardest matchups. It's what? Aaron Rodgers is now in that division. So I mean, have fun. Now you got to deal with Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen
Oh,
in the same division.
I mean,
Imagine being Miami and New England just being like, that's 4 games a season. It's 4 right there. That's got to be 4.
I don't know. I mean, it's just, if there's, I don't know if I can imagine a world where Aaron Rodgers doesn't make the playoffs. That's the thing. Like, when was the last time that happened? You know, barring an injury. Well, like a big injury, you know.
Yeah, no, the only reason it didn't happen last year was because he was not right at all.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. He was injured. And is it the Bears? It was some team in their division stole the last game. The Packers. If the Packers won the last game, they would have been in the playoffs.
It was
the Lions. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Lions destroyed their playoff hopes. But at the same time, that was a very hurt, very defeated Green Bay team. Yes, Aaron Rodgers was hurt, just like you said. But Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to a new team. He's finally out of Green Bay. He's in New York. That's way more Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? That's way more Aaron Rodgers. And now he has. I do think Garrett Wilson is a better receiver than Christian Watson. So I think that you're really going to see that be elevated. And I do think that the Jets have a better defense than the Packers. Personally,
way better defense.
Yeah. I mean, offensive line not as good, but
Quentin Williams
but
just signed like a
else.
mega deal.
Oh yeah, dude.
Come on.
That's my boy. Yeah, that's absolutely my boy. Well, that is football talk for this week, Tanner. Next week we're going to hit some NFC teams. We're going to talk about last place teams in the division, see what they need to do to get over the hump, and then some more sports talk. So Tanner, let's do it again next week.
Let's do it.